welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be a sit down, very chill video. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably know that I have recently in the last week gotten 3 tattoos. I have 2 on my arm and 1 new one on my thigh, and your girl is sore and in pain. So I really just wanted to like do something that was just gonna be like lounging and fun, but still interact with you guys and get a video up on my channel. To cut to the chase, that's what we're gonna be doing. A lot of you are about to go to training, which is so exciting, especially for those of you who are coming to my company, come boost that seniority. And so I know a lot of you are about to be assigned bases. So I've been getting a lot of DMs kind of about how you get your base assignments. Do you get a preference? Things like that. And the reason that I put transfers onto this video is because you can't really talk about base assignments without also including transfers. So I just figured let's go ahead and tackle the 2 together and give you some guys some really good advice and really good help on how you're gonna get your base assignment. Okay, so the first thing, when will you find out about your base assignment? Now, both times that I've been to training, I was supposed to find out about my base assignment early on in training, and they try to do that so that way you have enough time to figure out if you need to move or if you need to get a crash pad or what your living arrangements are gonna be like. So they do try and give you as much of a heads up as they possibly can, but both times I did not find out until actually really close to the end. I think on my regional, I didn't find out until like the last week, if I'm not mistaken. And then with my main line, I think I found out within the last 2 weeks or so. It wasn't a lot of time on either case, but they did give us move dates, so that kind of helps out. So that way, while you're in training, you can kind of get your stuff together, but also as soon as you're out of training before you have to start flying, you can take your move dates if you want them. And that way you can also have some time to get yourself adjusted and moved in, especially if you do have to go move across the country or something like that. So I would kind of expect to find out your base assignments early on in training, but again, it can definitely be later. So yeah. Okay, so next thing, how are base assignments given and do you get a preference? So a lot of times it will depend on operational need as to where they need flight attendants. So they can look at their bases and their operations and say, okay, we need 10 flight attendants in LA, we need 5 flight attendants in New York, and another 5 flight attendants in Dallas. So that way you can kind of see how many people we need at each spot. Now, before they can take those numbers and give them to new hires, they have to clear transfer lists. So this is kind of why I wanted to go ahead and throw transfers into this video as well. So before they can give a new hire their base preference of choice, they have to look at the transfer list. So say maybe on your transfer list, you have 10 people from other places that want to go to LA. So then suddenly none of those 10 places are gonna go to new hires because they were filled by transfers. But depending on where the transfers are going to, then their 10 spots open up to potential new hires. Do you see what I'm saying? I wanna try and make this as clear as possible, but basically whatever they need for operational need, they will first look at transfers, get the transfers settled, and then whatever is left or wherever people transferred out of, those are gonna be the new numbers that they give off to the new hires. I really hope this is making sense. So once they have the new numbers, the new positions, and the new bases that they have, these are going to be the ones that are going to go over to the new hires at the training center. So let's say after all the transfers were said and done, they still needed 5 in LA, 5 in New York, 5 in Dallas. Let's make it super simple. So you have 15 spots. Now, once you are in training, a lot of times they will tell you which bases are open. They may not tell you how many people they need in each base, but they will tell you the ones that are available. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just tell you these are where we have bases. Now list your preferences from first to last of where you would like to be. So either you know that these are your options or you're just going with wherever they have. And then later on, they're gonna kind of cross out depending on what's actually available. So once you list your preferences, so let's say that once I list mine, and we'll say my listing is LA, then Dallas, then New York. So from there, in seniority order is usually how that goes. So in your training class, who's ever the oldest to the youngest is how they assign bases. So they will basically start taking how you preference your trips from the oldest to the youngest and start giving out assignments first. So say that you're in the middle and maybe they ran out of spots of LA. Well, maybe Dallas is still available. So by the time they get to me, I might not get my first option, but now I might get my second option because that's still available. Which does lead me to say, I'm so sorry. If you are the baby of the group, you probably are not gonna get your first choice, and that is okay. There are so many people, like I cannot reiterate this enough. There are so many people that get put in bases that they never wanted to be in, fall in love, and don't leave. okay? And I'm not exaggerating, this is 100% true. Lots of people end up where they didn't think they were gonna be and just fall in love, and that's their base. But say you did get a base, you're not happy with it, there's always transfers. So you may end up commuting at first until you can get your transfer, which obviously I do not recommend commuting, and if you're not sure why I say that, go check out my commuting video. I will link it down below, and then you can kind of see why I'm saying I wouldn't recommend commuting. But anyways, you may end up commuting until you can get your transfers. So the way transfers work a lot of times is there's usually two kinds of transfers. You usually have something called a mutual transfer, or you have something called a vacancy transfer. So the vacancy transfer comes a lot of times when they have new hires coming in, because that's when they can see there are empty spots in the bases. So they have holes to fill. So you remember when I first told you before they cleared the transfer list that they might have so many spots in LA, so many in New York, and so many in Dallas. So those would be considered vacancies. So the vacancy transfer is basically saying there is an opening at a base. So that means if you put in for a vacancy transfer, they will either go in seniority order or first come first serve based on when you put your transfer in, and then you can go and get a vacancy. Now, a lot of times with vacancies, if you're not already trained on the equipment, after you get your transfer, you can go back to training and train on the equipment they need you trained on. Whereas if you do a mutual transfer, so a lot of times mutual transfers come when they don't have new hires coming in. So it's kind of where everybody is settled, it's an even playing field, and it's just if this person that's in New York wants to go to Dallas and this person in Dallas wants to go to New York, in seniority order, they will switch them out. So mutual is basically saying there's no open spots, everybody's settled, the dust has settled, but you are just going to transfer and switch places with a flight attendant who would rather be at your base and you wanting to be at theirs. So a lot of times with mutual transfers, you already have to be qualified on the equipment before you can do your transfer. So if I want to transfer, say I want to transfer to Dallas, I have to be qualified on the 777 and the 787 and some of these airplanes that we may not fly in Charlotte. So in order to do a mutual, a lot of times you want to go ahead in your off days and go down and qualify on equipment that you need to ahead of time. Another thing is if you get a vacancy transfer, a lot of times you can get locked into your transfer request. So if they did honor your transfer request, then say maybe you might be stuck at the base for 6 months. Whereas if you did a mutual and didn't like it, then usually there's no contractual agreement that you have to stay there. You can just put in a transfer request somewhere else. Another thing is you can actually put in order different bases. So you can put in numerous bases that you may want to go to instead of the one you're at. So I can put in a transfer and say I want to transfer to Atlanta, or maybe I want to transfer to San Francisco, or maybe I want to transfer to Denver, rather than being where I'm at. So ultimately I can number them 1, 2, 3. So I can put them in order of which one I would most like to have to the least like to have. And then they will try to honor any of these that they can. Obviously they want to do your first choice, but if they can't get your first or maybe your second, they'll give you your third. And they will keep going until they can basically get you that first request or that first base that you ultimately want to be at. I know this was kind of a quick explanation, but I really hope that I simplified it as much as I can. If I did kind of confuse anybody, try and reach out to me or comment below, and I will try to help out with as many people as I can. But that's kind of the gist of it. I really hope this helped you. Please give this a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Thank you so much for joining me today and have a great one, y'all. Bye.